Hello, Tech Pros, episode 122.
Be intentional about it. Have a plan, work the plan, be patient. Things don't happen overnight.
Welcome to the podcast where I chat with professionals who are getting the job done using technology 7 days a week. Each week, we start with Motivation Monday. Tuesday is about productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. All right, let's get started. Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostic, and I'm excited to introduce our featured guest today, Zach Hughes. Happy Wednesday, Zach.
Happy Wednesday, Chad.
Are you ready to lead us through this interview?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Zach Hughes is the Director of Technical Services at CHS Inc. He has 17 years of experience in IT, in enterprise IT infrastructure in a variety of disciplines, including cloud computing, application hosting, data centers, converged infrastructure, security, and IT leadership. He is passionate about innovating infrastructure technology solutions that create a competitive advantage for business. Prior to CHS, Zach held various IT leadership and senior engineering positions at Wells Fargo and GMAC Financial Services. Zach earned his MA in Organizational Leadership from Bethel University. Zach, that's very awesome. And I got to admit that I am not an infrastructure guy. I came from the software development world, and all the... In my opinion, and especially in my history, you guys are the unsung heroes of keeping everything up and running, right? Because it's sometimes the developers that are we have a love-hate relationship with the infrastructure folks. But at the end of the day, it's all about the love because, dude, if you guys didn't do an awesome job of scaling the network and keeping everything up and running and keeping the bad guys at bay, then the code would just have nowhere to live.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks. I appreciate that. And I agree. We certainly do have a love-hate relationship. I've been supporting developers my entire career, running the code, and you bet. It's a fun dynamic, and it's something that I've seen both healthy and unhealthy, and always looking to improve that. And especially with the DevOps movement that's been going on the last couple of years, that's I think even driving a closer knit between development operations, and kind of happy to see that continue to flourish.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the fact that it's kind of breaking down some of the barriers, right? Because in my history, 15 years ago when I got into the Fortune 100 side, the big business side of IT, both as a developer and then into management, there was a very clear delineation between roles, and it was like developers do this stuff, and then web admins do this stuff, and then server admins do this stuff. And now with the evolution of DevOps, it's kind of like stitching a lot of those roles to get together, where one person could wear multiple hats again, or multiple people can wear the same hat, and I think it's a lot smoother.
Yeah, it can be. And it's an evolution. I think we are, especially in a lot of mature organizations. Working in Fortune 100 companies my entire career, those mature organizations are sometimes slow to move, but we're moving in the right direction. Awesome. And becoming less siloed. And I've always. And there's infrastructure has so many different roles. I kind of, as a senior engineer, kind of grew up in the middleware space with really on the edge of application hosting. So hand in hand with the developers, doing the support, doing the application migrations, building the environments to scale and perform. Kind of being collaborative in terms of finding problems and resolving situations. So. You bet. It's you have to have a team that's close at hand that you can work together with, that you can trust. That you can when things are going bad on the weekend or at night, you can get together with and make things happen. That's where it's at.
So tell us about your team there at CHS Inc. First of all, what is CHS Inc? What do you guys do?
Excellent. Yeah, great question. So CHS is not necessarily a household brand. We are the largest farm cooperative in the world. We farming and energy. So we are actually owned by several 100,000 farmers, and we bring kind of their grain products to market. We also refine energy. We operate in we operate in 24 countries and have about 800 locations from an infrastructure standpoint across those 24 countries. So it's a large operation. But we're kind of behind the scenes, and so my role at CHS is I run the the infrastructure and operations back end for that, all of our data centers and our corporate network across those 800 locations in 24 countries.
Wow, awesome. That's it's a big job, a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it's fun. It's work worth doing. To be able to support the rural community. Feels good. We're cooperative as well, so all of our profits go back to our farmer owners, and we're just focused on helping them grow and just feed the world. So it's a fun mission.
Well, I applaud you for that because I grew up in East Texas. I was born in East Texas and then was kind of raised throughout my teenage years and as a young adult in Oklahoma, central Oklahoma. And other than the energy sector, meaning oil and gas, it's all about agriculture. And, gosh, those folks work harder than anybody in IT, everybody in IT combined, probably.
You bet.
And they do a heck of a job to put the food on the table, the food in the stores, so that all of us can access it, like at our local supermarket store. It's just amazing the amount of productivity and the amount of hard work that they put into it. So I'm happy to see that you guys are supporting them in your own way of helping them get their products to market. That's pretty cool. But today is I was about to say Productivity Tuesday. It is not Productivity Tuesday. Today is Leadership Wednesday on Hello Tech Pros. And we're all about being that inspiring leader who can, it's not just being the boss, being the manager, being the director of an organization, right? It's about inspiring people to follow a common vision, and it's about getting people aligned to work together. Like you've got all of these farmers working together, like collaborating on the market prices and on the infrastructure and everything to get the food to table. Well, in IT leadership, it's all about getting the IT folks to all come together on the common vision. So, Zach, that's what we're here to talk about today. But first, I always start with, it's kind of a negative story, but it helps break the ice and helps us realize that we're all human and we all have these unfortunate situations. And this particular unfortunate situation is your most horrible boss. Now, we don't want to name names. We don't want to throw people under the bus. We don't want to pull out particular, things that people can pick up on and say, oh, I know who Zach's talking about. We don't want to do that. But what we do want to do is come to the realization that, we all have these stories of just horrible bosses that we work for that did not, in our minds, exemplify what a good leader is, what an exceptional leader is. And we want to just learn from those stories, learn from those examples so that we in our positions, either as individual contributors or as leaders ourselves, managers, directors, or just leaders at church or leaders at our volunteer groups, we don't exhibit those same bad behaviors that those horrible bosses did. So Zach, please take us back to that moment in time in your career when you worked for the most horrible boss, and really set us up with, kind of what was the environment, what were you doing, and what were the behaviors that this boss was throwing out.
Right. Well, I've been fortunate to have a lot of really great bosses, and I've really got to where I am today because I've been mentored and kind of been in relatively nurturing environments for the most part. So that's one thing that I'm happy to say. But for sure, there's been a couple of cases where there has been some bad leadership up at the top, or really good leaders that had some bad tendencies. I really like to believe that these folks, even though they had some negative impacts on my team, were well intentioned, but just not really self-aware of some of their negative impacts. So I'll set up a current environment. We had a situation where we had a tight knit group of engineers, and through some just political things change where groups get kind of shoved underneath a new leader at times. That's kind of normal in large enterprise environments where kind of the middle and top layers, the chairs shift around pretty frequently.
Right.
So we had gotten rotated under a leader that really just didn't have. Had a hard time connecting with the group. So again, this is a infrastructure team, definitely well performing as a group, but now nested underneath a new leader that's getting to know us, and we're getting to know him. The problem that was kind of associated with the negative behaviors was this leader really seemed to just like the sound of his own voice. Really kind of, it was obvious that he kind of saw himself as the smartest person in the room, very experienced, and really became overly directive, and was really quick to kind of go into kind of a directive and execution mode in terms of what he thought the team needed to do, what direction he was getting from his boss, and just really kind of laser focused on that. And it's not that those things were all bad in and of themselves, but they're kind of in isolation, missing some of the more important things. So it's not a matter of just what was done, but what was not done. I would say this individual was not a particularly good listener. Didn't seem to care a whole lot about culture, honoring what had been done, the progress that had been made. Only saw what was missing, didn't see what was there that was good, and wasn't particularly good at fostering that innovative thinking or really sourcing ideas from the team. More just again, I've got preconceived notions. I know what works. I know what wins. I know what we need to do, and very prescriptive, rather than bubbling up from the team. What do we want to do? It just kind of created this adversarial relationship a little bit, made the team feel disconnected from the leader, and kind of a sour experience from a culture standpoint. And really, all these things, not that they really led to any really bad decisions. It just felt disconnected. It felt cold. It felt overly calculated, and really just kind of degraded the culture of the team and just the experience of the employees.
Oh man, dude, that sucks. It sucks to be in that position where you're a high performing team. In IT, regardless of what role your job is, right? We are all information workers. We are all hired because of our smarts and our intelligence and our brains and our ability to solve problems and get stuff done. And when you have a leader that thinks that they know all the answers and they know all the problems, and they are that prescriptive leader, as you said, I love that word. So a very prescriptive leader, instead of bubbling up the ideas and bubbling up the concerns of the individual contributors and the other leaders on the team, just saying, I know what the problem is, I know what the solutions are, do this, this, and that, then, man, what does it do to the individuals, both the individual contributors and the other leaders on the team, who are hired for their problem-solving skills, who are hired for their intelligence, but they're not allowed to use them because they just have to do the tasks that the boss says to do?
Yeah, it's very unempowering. The team just felt like their opinion didn't matter. It just I like to think of ways of elevating people, and this had the inverse impact. I'm just a doer. I'm going to do what I'm told to do. It just kind of overall just kind of depressed the environment a little bit.
Man, so were you, at this point in your career, were you a contributor to the team, or were you another leader, like a middle management in between this person and the contributors?
I was a middle manager, so
Okay.
I did my best to create my own culture, to be that buffer. But it's difficult when you have a poor alignment up the top. You can do that to a degree, but at times, ultimately, it's if you're trying to manage differently, if you're trying to lead differently than leaders above you, it's you can only do that so well.
So, what was the feedback from the team? So, I understand that
Yeah.
your position was, you felt unempowered, you felt disconnected, it was a very cold environment. But what did your employees say? Did they give you any feedback, or did you just sense that there was something different about the way that they worked?
Yeah, absolutely. The team constantly gave feedback.
Okay.
It's one of the things that I tried to be on the pulse of that as much as possible. And and yeah, it's a matter of again, being a high performing team, had a sense of pride about what we're able to do, but just not having that realized, not having that recognized by your upper leadership. It just feels it's demotivating. To say, okay, yes, we have things we can improve upon. Yes, we can we have things we can do better, but really not be recognized for the innovation that's happening here, and the history and the legacy that's already been built. It is tough. It's tough.
So back when I was in that Fortune 100 recently, and a couple of years ago, I used to say all the time to new recruits, to new people who were coming on the team, I'm like, hey, if you're, if unfortunately, if you're at the top of your game and this feels like the best place in the world to work, don't get too comfortable because things are constantly changing up at the top, and new managers coming in and out, like you said, kind of shuffling chairs around and kind of swapping who owns which departments and which divisions all the time. However, if your day completely sucks and you hate working for this place, just hang in there because it
Mm-hmm.
will get better. Because again, we're constantly shuffling at the top, shuffling chairs, who owns what, and kind of like trading cards back and forth. So when this happened to you, when this phase passed, and now you're working for somebody else, or now you move into a different position, what were the lessons learned that you took away from that experience that you really implement in your leadership style today?
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. And you're absolutely right. These things are transient; they're temporary, and I think that's somewhat part of the really problem at the top as well is they knew this assignment was temporary. So there wasn't as much of the long-term investment there. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So potentially that might be even really part of the problem. But you're right; it did pass, and we got to a better spot, and we were able to move on from there. But yeah, and I've since advanced from that place and become, kind of a mid to higher level manager myself. So it's. It's something I'm really careful about, right? So what are the lessons learned, right? About this, how do I not be that guy, right?
Right, right.
Uh,
How do you do
so
it? How do you do it? How do you not be that guy and be something else?
correct. So let me tell you just a couple of things that it starts with some self awareness. So some folks come into IT management from the business or from other areas. I came up from the bottom. I spent years on a help desk, then doing desktop support, then doing data center operations, server engineering, middleware, as we talked about before, and then up through the ranks of management and up through now I'm a director. So that having that history on the technical side, I had been that senior engineer, I had been that architect, so I could potentially very much have that same tendency to say, I've got experience, I know what the solutions are to these problems. Here, do this, and be
Mm.
that prescriptive person. But it's holding back on that and actually understanding and listening and appreciating the skilled engineers I have on my team. That if I'm honest and I'm humble about it, I can understand that these folks are all sharper than me. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I have to make sure I keep that in the forefront of my mind, because sometimes pride swells up within us, and we have our experiences. We know what's worked in the past, and we want to start with that. I think it's more important to start with listening and hearing from the folks that are closest to the problems, because that's usually where the best ideas come from. Now, certainly, my experience can still come to bear and shape the discussion and shape the direction, but I don't want to start there, because that tends to shut down the conversation. Because if a
Mm.
leader starts talking and being prescriptive, and everyone goes silent, right? And those things are the things I've begun to look for and watch for. If I see that my smartest people in the room that aren't me aren't talking, then I know that there's something stylistically that I might be doing that's not facilitating this discussion properly. So I'll try to pause and reevaluate and maybe reapproach it to make sure I'm hearing from folks, make sure I'm hearing from a variety of perspectives on any given problem, any given strategy, any given kind of roadmap item on what we need to do going forward. Make sure I have lots of inputs into that. Makes people feel heard, valued, and that their contribution is part of the greater whole and what we're trying to do as a team. It's those are super important.
Man, that's such a great approach, and I applaud you for that approach. I think that, from my perspective, that approach really resonates with my style, right? It's all about the team. It's not about me as the leader. It's not about my title. It's about what can I do to help the team, solve this problem. Yeah, what can I do to elevate their ideas and their concerns to a way that it puts the spotlight on the focus, and the focus is not me. The spotlight is not on me. It's on the problems and then the team that's going to solve those problems. So I love what you're saying there. In just a moment, I want to take a little shift in direction. You talked about how you came up from the bottom. You came from this call center support desk and then move into the engineering role, senior engineering team lead, managers, middle management, all this kind of stuff. You have kind of gone through the ranks, through the trenches. And I know there's a lot of people listening to this that are trying their best to get up into those positions and maybe struggling with that. So in just a moment, I want to ask you about the best tips and tricks that you have to make that process, make those leaps from, individual contributor, maybe on a help desk or maybe on a internship program or something like that, move into a senior position, move into leads, and then move into management. In just a quick moment, but first we're going to take a break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by Minio Cloud Storage. Minio is a cloud object storage server for developers and DevOps written in Go. The Go programming language is the emerging language of choice for modern cloud infrastructure projects, and it allows Minio to be highly concurrent and lightweight. Minio is Amazon S3 compatible, built with microstorage architecture in mind, but at its heart, Minio is simple, scalable, and supported by a passionate developer and user community. In episode 89 of Hello Tech Pros, I talked with A.B. Periasamy, one of the founders of Minio, about the importance of community support and recruiting software developers who are as passionate about their product's code as artists are of their art. Check out that episode at hellotechpros.com/89 and check out Minio Cloud Storage at minio.io. That's minio.io. Okay, we're back with Zach Hughes, the Director of Technical Services at CHS Inc. He's got 17 years of experience in IT infrastructure and a lot of different disciplines and roles, starting from help desk, moving into engineering positions, senior engineering positions, lead roles, team lead roles, manager roles, director roles. He's done the suite, done the gambit from the entry level position all the way up to that top tier, of management positions. And Zach, that's a tough journey. A lot of people throughout their career kind of bounce around and they do, this position for a while, then they'll move over to the business and they'll move back into IT. And, a lot of managers in big companies, in Fortune 500, Fortune 100 level companies, the managers of technical teams are not necessarily technologists. They don't necessarily have that experience, that hands-on experience of doing it. And there are pros and cons of both ways, right? So some folks coming from the business side really, really understand the community that we're serving, the products that we're building, the process, the financials, and sometimes in IT we don't see that. But on the opposite side, sometimes we as the technical folks really understand the challenges, the scalability, the whatever's going on in our world in the technical side that the business folks, the business leaders just don't get the nuts and bolts of, right? So from your perspective of coming from the bottom, working all the way up to the top, what were the biggest challenges of making those leaps, making those, getting those promotions into those positions?
Yeah, it's a great question and something I'm really passionate about. I have had some success there, and I really love to kind of pay that forward. Try to inspire folks that are on that journey, at any point, to say, yeah, you can move. Yeah, there is opportunity. That's one of the things I love about IT, is there's just such an opportunity-rich environment. If you've got the abilities and you've got the skills and get the drive, you can find opportunities. But there are some things to keep in mind. Let's certainly discuss those. Let's see. Just to start at kind of almost the beginning. How do you kind of go from entry level to kind of the top of your game from a individual contributor standpoint? And I'm going to speak really from that infrastructure perspective, because that's what I bring.
Sure.
But I think it's super important to job number one is master your current job. You have to get proficient, very proficient, be the best at what you're currently doing. That may seem obvious, but some people maybe skip over that. But it's not a matter of, okay, if I just do a good job, keep my head down, I'm going to get noticed and get promoted. That never happens. So you have to add some things to that. So once you're doing your job and have mastery over your current job, you kind of need to look, okay, what's that next spot that I can do, that I can start learning about or trying to do in addition to my current job. Now that's one of the things I was doing when I was way back on the help desk. I wanted to move up to be a desktop support person. That was kind of the next tier up for me.
Nice.
So how I did that was, I just made sure that any ticket I was going to escalate, it was extremely well vetted, and I would troubleshoot things way further than than most of my peers would before I'd kind of pass it on. So, and then when it came to opportunities, there, it's not a matter of just getting promoted. It's not like someone walked past me and say, Zach, you've done a great job, we should promote you. That's never happened to me. It's all
Right.
about it's about there's a job posting. I applied for it. So did my peers, and I had to compete for it and win. But I had developed that reputation as, hey, this person is very competent. They're very skilled. They make my life easier. Yeah, they've developed a reputation within the group and can is the best person for the job. And when from that point, that was kind of a natural progression. But moving on from there, being a infrastructure person, being on the desktop side, I really wanted to get to the server side. That felt like kind of more the, really where the specialization would go. That's where my education was based. So I wanted to get on the data center side, work on servers and applications and databases, that sort of thing. But I had no experience. Everything I had was client facing. So I had gotten some education. I got some certifications. Some folks, overemphasize certifications. I don't want to overemphasize the importance of certifications, but I will say that they will augment a lack of experience. So if you don't have experience in an area, you can get some certifications in that area. At least shows that you are willing to apply yourself to try and figure that out, because certifications are tough. It's a barrier, and if you're willing to put yourself through that battery of examination just for fun. I mean, I know a lot of people do them, but it's a lot of work to put yourself through. It shows some initiative and shows, hey, at least I understand this enough. I haven't done it, but I understand it, so I can really step into this and hit the ground running. So that's what I did. Added some certifications, and then again, opportunity opened up, kind of on the network operations center. It's kind of an entry level into that space. And I was able to, kind of apply, compete, and win. It's a matter of that. So that's it. Now, once I was kind of that low entry level engineer on the server side, I wanted to become a senior engineer. And one of the things that I noticed was super important about any kind of senior engineer. You have to specialize in something. At this point, I was a generalist, and an IT journalist is only going to get you so far. I'd been successful to that point by being that generalist, but I needed to specialize. And at that point in time, it's not a matter of really what you pick. It's just pick something. For me, it was a matter of, again, opportunity. We were bringing at the time Citrix technology into the environment, and there wasn't anyone that was kind of picking that up. So I volunteered. Hey, I'm gonna learn everything there is to know about this. I'm going to specialize in this. I'm going to make this work for the company. So I did that, and was able to really focus on that. And it's not a matter of just studying within myself. That's when I began to network and connect with the community, right? So it's a matter of, I can be the smartest Citrix guy in my company, but that's not good enough. I need to connect with my peers, go to conferences, user groups, that sort of thing, read the blogs, contribute to blogs, and really get a lot of expertise around that area. Then I was able to really kind of create some ownership and some specialty, and really achieve that senior engineering role.
Man, what an awesome journey. I mean, just the amount of effort that I see you putting into this journey, right? So along the way, the biggest thing I got out of this is Zach is proactive. He's not sitting back waiting for something to happen, right? He's not going, woe is me, why won't anybody promote me? How come I keep getting passed over, and Johnny over here and Sally over there, they keep moving up and I'm just stuck in this, in this help desk role. No, he was proactive. He took action and he said, okay, what's that next thing that I want? What's the next step on my path? I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to invest in a lot of hard work and a lot of effort, whether it's studying for certifications or it's volunteering to do jobs, but it's taken a lot of action in order to get recognition, right? Because that's what it's really about, is getting that recognition that, dude, you're working really hard and you're putting a lot of effort into it. I'm going to trust you now in this next position. Like, you have shown that you're a go-getter, that you're going to get things done, that you're a finisher, you're going to finish what you started. I now have a much more, a higher level of respect for you, because you're not just the person that answers the calls and routes a service ticket to a different department. You actually solve problems, and you're looking for solutions and all this kind of stuff. Here's that next position. Here's that next opportunity. And then when you got that, you didn't just sit back and say, great, I've made it. I'm here. I can relax and cash in my stock options. No, you look for the next thing and look for the next thing and constantly moving at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give a couple of tips actually for those who maybe already in that senior engineering position, I bet, or senior developer position, and really want to make that move to management. I think that's, really everything I talked about up to this point, you can do in pretty rapid succession. I will tell you the hardest jump, in my experience, is to move from individual contributor to manager of people, because that's a leap of faith from someone, right? Where I'm now going to entrust you over these other folks, and we already talked about what a bad boss can do, a well-intentioned bad boss can do to a team. So anytime management's going to say, I'm going to put this person in a leadership role over other people, they're taking a risk. So how do you make that tolerable for upper management to say, hey, I want to be the next manager of this group. I care about the kind of leading people, not just leading technology. The way I did that was kind of similar. Most corporations offer those soft skill kind of leadership development courses. I took every one they offered, just to get myself that education. I finished my degree, got my bachelor's. Later on, I went and got my master's, but that wasn't at this stage of the game. And I also I got my leadership to at least entrust me with the contractors. Maybe I'm not going to be leading a department right off the bat, but hey, we've got some contractors in our group. How about putting them under my authority to give, so I can give them work direction. They said, yeah, sure, let's do that. That's something that was a good stepping stone for me. And then ultimately, again, when it came down to getting an actual management opportunity, one had to be created. Usually it's some reorganization or growth or something political happens where there is an opportunity. You can't just create one out of thin air, or your boss has to leave, and then so the table needs to get set. Then you can say, I planted the seeds. I've talked to folks. People know my intentions. I've been, really intentional myself about communicating the fact that I want to be a leader. I want to manage folks. That's been well, kind of socialized.
Right.
And then I was able to do it. So it didn't just happen, but I put a lot into my own development to make that happen, and then I seized it. It wasn't necessarily the most ideal conditions. It wasn't the most ideal position for me, but it was a management position, and I desperately wanted that. I knew they were rare. I knew that was a chance I couldn't pass up. So I did that, and that's how I made it there.
Good for you, man. That's such a rewarding, awesome story, because sometimes, we see other people that have this title and we see them walking around in their fancy shoes and their big title and they think they're all that. And sometimes that's from our perspective, just coming from a place of fear and a place of resentment because we're not getting our due, right? And so what I want the audience to walk away from this knowing is it's a hard journey to get to that position for most people. I mean, sometimes things land in people's lap, but in your case, in my case, my story is very similar. It's a long journey and it's not accidental. It's like you have to proactively go out and seek opportunities and invest in yourself, invest in the organization, and let people know, right? Be very social about your goals and look for mentors and find people who will allow you to take that next step and allow you to give it a shot and try it out. And in your case, you got to try it out in a small scope, right? It was just contractors. It wasn't, you didn't have an HR title where you were responsible for hiring and firing and the promotions and all that kind of stuff. It was just contractors. And if people haven't worked in that environment before, it's very, very easy because contractors like come and go like constantly. And
Sure.
So, it's easy for a manager, or it's much easier for a manager to empower you with contractors and say, okay, you own these folks, and that came off really, really bad. I didn't mean own that, folks, but own the relationships with these individuals. You are empowered with a responsibility over their job output. It's much easier for a manager to give you that position than to like open up a new manager position in the department where you have the full HR responsibilities and so forth. Right. So the biggest takeaway, again, that I got out of this that I hope our audience does too, is you have to be proactive. You have to be proactive. You have to be social. You have to really, really work and network to get these leadership positions.
Yeah, it's true. You mentioned social, mentioned networking. I'm a geek. I'm an engineer. I like talking to computers more than I like talking to people.
Right.
I'm not alone. I think the audience can hopefully relate to that.
Yep.
It takes some. I just know that I had to do it, and that was part of that mentorship thing that you had mentioned. I just got some good advice from some leaders I trusted. Say, hey, get out there. Network, talk to people. I know you don't want to. I don't want to either. But you need to kind of know and be known because that's really how this works and how you develop trust and how you kind of plant those seeds in the organization. So yeah, I started doing that, and there's no wrong way to do it. Just start to be intentional about making those connections. Having lunch, having coffee. Don't eat alone. Try to make sure you stay plugged into the network.
Dude, we're going to have to bring you back for a People Friday to really dive into those soft skills because I struggled with them forever for such a long time. And I think if I was born innately with the ability to schmooze, as I called it back in the day, but the ability to just interact with people socially and to develop relationships outside of, my besties, my best friends who are in the trenches with me,
Sure.
but just develop wider relationships, broader relationships with broader people across the organization. It would have so helped my career because once I started working on that, once I said, okay, like Zach's right, I guess I need to start going to lunch with weirdos, like strange people that I are not my friend, and I feel very uncomfortable being around just because they don't get me and I don't get them. Once I started investing in that, then man, all kinds of doors started opening up. But it was a long journey, and that's a long conversation. So we're going to have to bring you back for for that other conversation. But for now, Zach, can you sum it all up for us? So give us your final words of wisdom for the audience, the big takeaways that you want them to take away from this conversation, and then the best way that we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Right. Well, thank you. Just to sum it up, it's so important for anyone in a leadership position to be a really intentional leader, intentional listener to their teams. Really kind of crowdsource their innovation from their group to foster that culture. It's the style. It's those soft skills, those nuanced things that make such a big difference in whether people enjoy coming to work or not. So being people use the word empowerment a lot. It's maybe overused, but I live and breathe that every day in my leadership. At least I try my best to kind of foster that community where thoughts and ideas and people are elevated every day. That's my biggest takeaway. And if you're trying to grow your career, be intentional about it. Have a plan, work the plan, be patient. Things don't happen overnight, but you stay at it. Things will turn your way. We are in an opportunity-rich environment in IT, and gosh, you work in another industry, you don't have the same opportunities we have. So feel fortunate about that, but still be intentional. And to get in contact with me, so I started blogging about these subjects. I have a blog website. It's called ZachOnLeadership.com. Zach is spelled Z-A-C-H. ZachOnLeadership.com. I have all my contact information on that site, and plus articles on this subject and others.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Zach is giving these examples right after our commercial break, I'm like, this sounds really familiar. This story sounds familiar, and it's he's got all of the details that he shared, plus a lot more. 20 steps, 20 rules for advancement, right there on his blog. So I'll be sure to link that up on the show notes page. So you can find that at hellotechpros.com/122. So this is episode 122. So hellotechpros.com/122. That'll get you the show notes page for this episode, all the takeaways, all the information that we've been talking about, as well as links to ZachOnLeadership.com and links to this particular article where Zach shares the 20 rules for advancement. Zach, thank you so much for sharing your story here on Hello Tech Pros and talking to us. I really value your insight and your wisdom, your experience, and the message that you shared with us today.
Thank you very much, Chad. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Tech Pros, remember two things. First of all, you have to be proactive. You have to take action, and you are the one that's responsible for your own career. And second of all, once you do get in that leadership position, regardless of if you're a manager, a director, or just a team lead, or just a volunteer that's helping out, treat people as people. Don't treat people as machines. Don't boss them around. Don't order them around. You can't just write a script and expect people to follow it. You have to treat people as real, honest to goodness, individual people that have feelings and care about things and want to show you that they can do the job just as well, right? So yeah, look out for their feelings and think about their feelings first. You're probably not the smartest individual in the room. If you are, you're in the wrong room. You've been listening to Zach Hughes, and I'm Chad Bostic. And until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/122. Do you use Slack for team communication? Join the Hello Tech Pros Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, subscribe to this channel, and check back tomorrow. This has been Leadership Wednesday, but tomorrow my featured guest and I talk about technology. On Friday, people and communication. Saturday, entrepreneurship. Sunday, being unplugged. And then next week, we kick it off with Motivation Monday, followed by Tuesday, productivity. And then we're back again on Wednesday to discuss leadership. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.